Welcome to this episode of the Customer Centric Retailing Podcast. This is Anil Patel, founder and CEO of Hotworks Commerce. In this podcast, we discuss e-commerce, omnichannel technology, pre-order management, brick and mortar operations, retail culture, innovation, and how all these elements come together to create customer-centric retailing. Join us to hear the brightest minds in the retail industry share their experiences and thoughts on the most relevant topics today. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Customer Centric Retailing Podcast. Today we have with us Johan Munck, CEO of POP. He is joining us from Sweden. Fun, I'm really excited, Johan, for talking to you. Again, Sweden, for me, I've seen it in movies. I've not been there in person. So, it's always like exotic for me. So thank you very much. At least I get to talk to you. That gets me excited.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. And we're exotic, but we don't have ice bears on the streets, so we're not that exotic. Even though we just got rid of our snow, even though it is in the end of May. So, but now sun is shining also here.
Awesome. Cool. Definitely, it will be another couple of months for you with a nice sun out there, and you can have fun.
That's what we hope, at least, but you never know. Midsummer can come and it can snow anyway, but now the sun is here, so we hope that it's here to stay for at least a lot of months before the winter hits us again.
Cool. This is great. So, Johan, for me, what is important is I don't want to go personally into the details of how you started your career path and your journey from where you begin to your current role as a CEO. I'll instead have you tell us your story. So tell us about your story from beginnings to your current role as a CEO.
Okay. So I have only worked in retail all my life. Textile retail is the only thing I know. I started way back in the days, like 30 years ago, at H&M. Then I was working in merchandising, so in the buying office with H&M at headquarters here in Stockholm, and then I was deported after a couple of years. I worked in the French part of Europe to start with, in Belgium and in France, and then finally at the end of H&M, my H&M journey ended in Spain. So I moved back to France, and then I've been living and working for 15 years in France, working for different international retailers like the New Look Group, and the last job I had in France was with Esprit. That also brought me back home again to my home country, Sweden, after 19 years abroad. And so after a few years at Esprit in the Nordics, I have had my own consultancy company. And since 4.5 years, I am the CEO of POP, Polarn O, Pyret. I got that. Yeah, so I got that this job that I have now as an acting CEO just in the beginning of 2020, February 2020. I got this job. We have the company have had a little bit of a challenge getting the product right, and when everyone else were doing very good, POP had a little bit of a challenge. So I joined with a mission of changing, together with a new CPO, our product offering, and also making a turnaround of the company and then sell it. Then a few weeks later on, the little bug called COVID came and hit us all. So we had a very turbulent time. After actually a month, we went into corporate restructuring, so what's called in the US Chapter 11. Together with two other companies. We were a group of 3 companies, so it was us and then 2 sister companies, and that was the very, very, very hectic period when on the outside we were all discovering what COVID brought in, and with all the uncertainty that had, and then on the same time we had to restructure our company and that was a very, very tough time. But we managed in like 5 months. We really rebooted the whole company, and we had to unfortunately close 25% of our stores. We had to take away a big part of the purchased volumes, and then work with the cost base. But we managed pretty well, and then after 5 months we got out of the corporate restructuring, and since then we had a much more solid base, and we started then the due diligence process of selling the company, and that took another few months. And then since 3 years ago we changed owners, and we now have a much more stable owner, which is night and day. And from there on we could restructure and invest quite heavily in the new IT infrastructure, and also well, with the we left the pandemic, and then went into well, the cost of living crisis that has been hitting especially Europe, well, all over the world. And so it went a little bit from one crisis to the other. So the team, and myself inclusive, have learned everything about flexibility. So now flexibility is our well, the guiding star, and it's our middle name. And what is also very good and interesting is that we have never since actually the start of the company in 1976, the product has always been at the core of what we do, and that has never been put into question. So we have always had the foundation of having great quality clothing for children, with a sustainable guidance from the start. In 1976, sustainability was all about sort of quality, durability, and then it went over the years more into the social part, and now sustainability is so much more complex. But we'll get back to the sustainable part of our business a little later on. So that's not that short of a story, but that's the story that is behind me and POP as a company.
Awesome, man. This is really good. In fact, while everything else is like good, but at the end, like when you came to POP and became CEO, and then COVID came, and then this whole restructuring came in, that is hard. It's challenging, and I'm sure, I don't know how much of experience you had doing similar things before, but this was like something always, hard, because you had to talk to many people, have to let them go, and then cut expenses here and there. So there's a lot goes on there, and at that time you end up doing so much more than otherwise you would do, just because there's only so much finance you have available. So I'm sure it was really hard, challenging, but I'm sure taught you really good lessons for the rest of the life.
Yeah. I've done restructurings before, but the added complexity was obviously COVID, when you couldn't even meet, you couldn't talk to people, and that's also sort of the basic lesson of management. For example, if you have to let someone go, you should do it physically in a meeting. You have to talk to people, but we couldn't invite a person that we unfortunately had to let go into the office because we were not allowed. So having to also let people go over a digital meeting, well, you feel really, really bad as a responsible having to do that. But well, we didn't have any other option. We couldn't either travel to them or asking them to come into the office. So that part was really, really challenging. But well, you learn to live with a new environment, and then that's the great thing with a human being. We adapt, and we then take a new challenge and embrace it, and then well, you just have to live with it and do the best thing. So that was it was a brutal path we had to take, but well, there was some intelligent person saying never waste a good crisis, so I guess we didn't do that this time.
Johan, as we move on, like you said, during the restructuring you had to close 25% of stores. But that also means that you were not happy with that decision. You had to do it as a part of your whole strategy. Now, in retail, it's always, I'm a big fan of physical retail, like the real retail, where you go in and experience the product, talk to people, and then you like try it out and then buy it, right? In my other conversation, this word real retail came up, and we were joking about it. But yeah, so all these, these days the shopping experience has gone much more complicated, much more complex, where customers are connecting with the company on the phone, on the computer, in the store, and then their buying experience is like all over the place. It's on the computer and all that. So this is where the real challenge comes up. It's like, what do you think? How is this complexity of having stores and all these digital media put together? How is that adding the challenge of delivering the brand experience to the customer?
Good question. Yeah, we have had a very interesting journey in that sense. Going back to when I started, before COVID, we had 19% e-com share. And then of obvious reasons, when most of the world were in lockdown, even though we had the possibility as one of few countries, Sweden, we were not in lockdown, but it was more of a mental lockdown. So then we went to 80% e-com share. So from 19 to 18 in just a few weeks. And since we have a very strong brand in our home markets, we could, without losing too much top line, we could actually shift over most of the physical bricks and mortar sales into our e-com platforms. We have today 11 different platforms in different markets, and we have around 100 points of sales currently. And it's clear we are what we say, because we've seen now that the shift is going back. So now when after the pandemic, it obviously went down into sort of again a majority of physical stores, and now the pendulum has changed again. So we are around 52% e-com sales. So we're actually more of a digital brand than bricks and mortar. And this is, I agree with you that these are two different universes, but we try to see it as one sort of omnichannel. Because we know that if you put the customer at the center of your focus and looking at yourself as well, very, very few people are either completely digital or completely analog, so physical analog. So you sometimes it's better for whatever reason you decide to go out shopping in a store, or for whatever reason you decide to stay home. And so we need to be where the customers expect us to be, and that is in a good digital environment, and then having stores. Actually it works better when we are both physical and digital. That's where we have the best performance in both stores and online. So the one channel is generating sales into the other, and I think that's also, you have to have the customer journey can't be identical, because you would have you have to understand what are the reasons why the customers are looking for your brand in a digital environment, and when do they come out to the stores, and what experience are they looking for? Do they need some additional help? Do they need to touch and feel, look at the color of a product, or so on? So and once you realize what the customers are looking for in every channel, well, that's what you have to sort of dig deeper into and make sure that you're giving the customer experience they are looking for in every channel. But of course, being one brand and having the same, you can't be one style of a brand online and then a completely other one when the customer comes to your physical store. So there needs to be a brand story, that a red thread that is logic for the customer, and so that when at every touch point when the customer sees you, they recognize you, even though they might look for different angles of your brand in different channels.
Yes, that is so true, because I talk to many different retailers, and this topic always comes up, that how is the digital and the physical retail integrating, and how is it impacting. And one thing that across the board all leaders in the retail space agree on is that digital channels help your physical stores, and at the same time physical stores help digital channels. So when you open retail location in certain area, it's observed that even the sales online increase in that region. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a good example of that. We have stores in Estonia in the Baltics, so we have 2 stores there, and Estonia is our biggest .com market. So .com is where on the site where we gather all the languages where we don't have a site for catering for that language. So why on earth would the Estonians be so interested in buying a POP online? Well, it is because we have 2 stores that are generating sales online, and it's so obvious there because we don't have a with the Estonian language. So that's just the proof is in the pudding that the store sales is generating e-com sales, and e-com is generating store sales. So we can really see how the customers there are interacting. So that's I fully agree with you there.
Yeah, and this is the reason why the whole new technology stacks like omnichannel and integrating your e-com with your online e-com systems with your store retail operations management systems, and then your whole warehouse management system, keeping track of inventory and maintaining the customer journey across all these channels becomes so important. Because like the customer, the same person is browsing online, but then they walk in the store and they are looking for products. Sometimes they even buy online and come in the store and may want to exchange an item or maybe return an item, something like that. All this has to be really seamless, and this is where these days, because like you said, digital is helping make more money on the stores. Similarly, stores are helping make more money on the digital. So having them work together and spending a little money on that tech to make sure that everything is working together is so critical these days.
Yeah, I agree. And it is also important because for us, like for most retailers, the biggest store we have is the online store. So there are very few retailers like us who can afford to have a full-size physical bricks and mortar store with a whole collection. So obviously then we have a constant flow of customers that are discovering us. Well, actually 80% we know of our customers are first doing sort of digital shopping in their at home in their couch, and then coming to the store, having then seen, oh, I'm really gonna look at this when I go out shopping next time, and then they come and, well, if then that particular item is not available because we didn't allocate it to that store because it's too small, then of course we need also the digital help for the stores to then being able to sell either that product after that the customers maybe have tried it on or felt it, that they say, okay, this is just, I want it, and then facilitating for the customer then to close the purchase in store, so that we facilitate the customer experience for the customer.
Yeah, that's important. In fact, it's interesting, like when the customer walks in the store and they are looking for some product and they cannot find, and then associate helps them place the order for that item, get it delivered to their home. That's like an interesting experience, and I believe what you said aligns with this experience, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and then what I'm trying to get to is like this whole experience has many different names. In US, they sometimes call it send sale, and in India they call it endless aisle. What do you guys call it in your region?
Well, we would probably call it endless aisles, or omnichannel retailing is when the two channels are living together, and you're putting the customer in the center, and then serving the customer with whatever channel they expect us to be in. So I guess it's omnichannel.
Okay, got it. Cool. Yeah, because always these terminologies always are funny and kind of confusing at sometimes. Like in US we call it buy online, pick up in store, BOPIS. Whereas in Europe they call it click and collect.
Click and collect. And in India, what is it there?
They call it click and collect. In India they follow European vocabulary most of the time. So in India, they call it click and collect. Well, as we implement this omni-channel journeys, one important thing comes up is inventory, keeping track of inventory across all these store locations, warehouse. Now you don't, like in the store, you are not just using point of sale system that is selling items to your walk-in customer, but now you're also serving your online orders from the store in form of buy online pickup in store, and you're also capturing orders like endless aisle omni-channel orders and things like that. So keeping track of inventory itself becomes a challenge, and then inaccuracies in inventory tracking and the numbers could actually lead to bad experience for the customer, because it's possible that I might take the order for collecting in the store, but then the store, when the customer comes in the store, the item may not be in stock. So these are all these challenges around inventory management. What do you think about, like, how do you guys keep track of all these, and do you see inventory related trouble, and what are your suggestions on strategies?
Yeah, well, we have had our fair share of challenges. What we did when we changed owners, we had the possibility of changing our complete IT infrastructure, which helped us, because at the end of the day you have to control your data. You're not better than the data, and then of course, obviously, then if we have 100 points of sales, we have 2 warehouses, the risk of ending up with wrong, that you don't follow the merchandise, and then also we do on site, you can see as a customer if something is sold out online. Okay, is it available in store? Even though in theory we obviously want to sell the last piece of an SKU online, that's the most efficient way of doing it. But so we also have here something we call store stock hubs, so we can open up the stock that is then allocated to a store. We can also then open it up so that actually a customer, if it's sold out centrally, that SKU doesn't exist anymore in the warehouse, we can pick it from a store the closest to where the customer lives, so that we don't. So that's, in that sense, we open up the whole store stock as also availability for the online customers, and that we didn't have before, and that has really been a nice boost in sales, because it is, even in the best of systems, it is so difficult to allocate the right merchandise to the right store, and there are some specificities in when it comes to product types or volumes and so on. So it's really minimizing the first deliveries to each store is key, and then replenishing, having then more frequent replenishments to get it right, because otherwise it generates a lot of markdowns at the end of the season if you have unbalanced stores. And then even more now also we have the logistic challenges in the world, where we buy most of our merchandise are coming from Asia. So it goes, and then before it went through the Red Sea, and now when we have to take the big tour around Africa, it's adding a few weeks delivery time, and that has also caused sort of, when we have a lot of long life products, so but we then need replenishment, and that has caused also some holes that were not planned because of the additional weeks of travel for each garment from the supplier to us.
Yeah, this is true. Like, for sure, like every retailer, leadership in the retailer, they want to quickly sell as much possible, and especially the store inventory. I can totally understand how important it is to be able to open up that inventory for selling online, because sometimes you allocate inventory to the stores, but not all the inventory allocated to the store moves as fast. Some move faster, but others don't move as fast. And then such items are easier sell online than in the store. And then if you don't sell it in time, then like you said, you just, towards the end, you have to mark down and all that clearance, which is like hard and expensive. That also leads me to this other topic that is very important for this conversation, is sustainability. We produce and we can't sell, and then we have to dump it. This is the culture that most of the brands are bringing now, especially in the United States where I live. we see that the culture is produce as much as you can, as fast as you can, stock it up in the stores, make it available at discounts, make people buy them, let people buy them, and people keep buying them. And I'm like, come on. I've had this shirt for like many years now. I even forget when I bought it. And it keeps going on and on and on. Like, why do you need to buy every time? And also not one or two, but like tons of them. So really, sustainability. So you are a retailer, and I'm like questioning, Johan, how do you see this whole idea of sustainability? Because on one side, you want to sell more. But then on the other side, if you sell, you are creating more and more stuff to be finally dumped into the landfill. So tell me about it. Educate me on that.
Well, this is at the heart and the DNA of our brand, and something that we really, really work hard with every day. And the market statistics are not 100% clear and transparent, but roughly the textile industry is producing 100 billion pieces of clothing every year. And I think the last time I looked, we were like 8 billion people. That means that we have to buy 2.5 pieces of new clothing, every individual all over the world every year. And our little planet is not going to sustain that, and it's already starting to scream that we have to change this. And what is even worse, a little bit what you were in there also with the volumes, that 30 billion pieces of clothing, so 30% of all that, is never even used. So it goes directly to the landfill with hang tags, with everything on, and it hasn't even been into anyone's wardrobe before it's thrown away. And that this can't continue. So we're really wanting to change this. We are a small company. We're turning on $75 million a year. So, but at least, we're big enough to make a difference. So it all starts. We have a circular business model we're working with, and it starts with the product. And there, like we said, you have to buy the right volumes of products, but it's also, obviously, every single piece is giving a climate footprint. You can't make clothing out of air, so you have to also really pay attention that we're using the right fibers and yarns and everything that in the production phase. And also then we've reduced the number of suppliers we have. We only have 10 suppliers standing for about 80% of our sales, and that is also together with the suppliers to work on the production of every single item, that it's done in a way that it is giving us the least climate footprint we can. And actually buying quality clothing is something as a customer you can do to change a little bit. This, like you said, your nice shirt that you have there, you've been wearing for years, and that is the right way. And that is, we are producing, we have a mission. Our company mission is that each item that we produce should be able to be worn by at least 3 children. So we're making clothes from newborn up to sort of preschool and into the younger ages of school, so that every item should be able to be worn by 3 children. And that is also sort of we can't then make qualities that we know are not going to be worn or be possible to be worn by several children. So this idea of having hand-me-downs is really, really crucial in order for us then to minimize the volumes that goes out. So if we produce better clothing, each individual in the world doesn't have to buy 12.5 pieces. You can live with much less. And in that also then, in the circle that our business model is doing, then of course then the transportation is one part, but that's okay. We don't air freight, but we buy biofuel for the boats and everything. But that is microscopically small, and then once the item has been sold, it needs to be able to then be resold. So we know that in our home markets, we are the children's wear brand that is the most sold on the big platforms that are selling secondhand, and that's sort of proven that our quality lasts, and it can be reused, because reuse is always better than recycling. Then of course it's also, we are giving the customers the possibility to if you can't if you're not a if you can't sew and stitch something, if there is a hole, we can also help the customers then to maintain the clothing in a way that they can be sort of mend a little hole, and then the child can use it for another year or so on. And also in the production phase, we have always done qualities that are with as much monofibers as possible, because the problem is, which is often used by fast fashion low prices, is that to get the price down, it's a mix of different fibers. So it can be cotton mixed with polyester or other combinations, and if you want to recycle, it is today there are some techniques that are starting to be developed where you can have more mixes, but currently you need to, if you want to be able to recycle it, what's at the end of a garment's life cycle, it needs to be produced with as much monofibers as possible, i.e. as close as 100% polyester, or as close as 100% cotton as you can. 95/5, or in some cases 90/10 can work, but usually as a customer, buy quality, buy monofibers, then at the end of the life cycle the systems can recycle. But they're also, as we are lousy in recycling. Out of those 100 billion pieces of clothing that is produced every year, 1% in the world is recycled. And that's also sort of, and we don't have the infrastructure for it in most of the Western countries. So that's why it's way too often ends up in landfill, which is, even if it's a product that could be used and reused. So all that, and that's something where we fail in our our circular business model, is the recycling part. So therefore, again, we do everything in our power to make sure that each piece of clothing can be used for a longer period of time. That means that it doesn't have to be dumped or thrown away or even recycled, then, because we know that infrastructure in the world today is not really ready.
Yeah, in fact, I like your idea of ability, or even the company's mission to encourage make products such that three children will at least be able to use the product, which is amazing actually. And in fact, I also like I agree with you on the idea that recycling is one thing, but it's one thing to talk about it, but to do it is hard. It's not easy. At the same time, it's expensive, and sometimes it could even consume more resources than you think you want to spend on recycling that product, because otherwise it's like zero-sum game. No one wins in there. So really, I like the idea that use the product as much you can. Use it for like 3 children. So like at least, if it was to be worn for otherwise like 6 months or a year by one children, it gets used for 3 years because 3 different children used it. Now that is like reducing the consumption of energy or the resources for producing by a third. That is like a big impact. So I like that idea. And in fact, until more recently, when the whole world started mass producing almost anything and everything, I believe, in India, it's very common. I was raised like that, where, you had a pair of shoes or a school uniform or whatever, that used to, like, your elder brother used to wear it, then you would, and then your cousin would wear it and all that. So like all the clothing or shoes or whatever, all these things were really used and reused and reused again. That was sustainable. But then all of a sudden, this whole economy and the boom in economy, and then whole economist who said consumption, increase the consumption-based economy, and economist came in. And all of a sudden, we started creating more for low cost, increasing demand. And then finally, now we have another problem to figure it out, that, okay, what do we do with it? We don't have enough space actually to dump all that we are producing.
No. And there's also, it's interesting to see because when, well, a few years ago, second-hand was something that was not at all, was very marginal, and something that most people are, well, you had to sort of be poor to go into second-hand store. Now it is completely different, and we have second-hand in all our stores, and we're also selling second-hand online in the UK, and now it represents, well, 5% of our sales, so we're slowly but surely increasing it, and our goal to be also in line with the Paris Agreement's targets that we took. It has to represent 30% of sales before 2030, and we're on our way to do that. And I really like that now the second-hand as such in society is much more appreciated, and it's not at all looked as something that is old and that you just dump whatever you don't want in your wardrobe. It's a value of this clothing. But of course, then for us, in order for it to be, it is a very good business for us, because you could also see each item we can actually sell it 4 times in the best day, and obviously not for the same price, but it has also opened up for us. We are a premium brand, so it's opened up for us a entry price level, so we can actually now compete with the fast fashion low price retailers, which we had never ever done on price before, with our own second-hand merchandise. So it's POP merchandise, obviously second-hand, but still price-wise we now suddenly have the same price level as the low-price volume retailers, which is quite interesting. And then the customers comes in, and it opened up also for a customer base which we didn't have before. Well, customers that thought that we were a little too expensive, that now comes in and appreciates our second hand. And also the customer who buys us first hand, so to say, see that it has a second hand value, and therefore the price is such. Of course, you have to have the cash flow in the family economy to afford to buy that more expensive price. But you see that, okay, but it has a second hand value, so I can get some money back at the end when my child has outgrown this and he or she is not going to be able to wear it anymore. Then I can sell it back for a certain amount of money, and therefore sort of it lowers the total value, or the total cost of that item for the customer. So, and that's it's become really, really good business for us. And online wise, what's the key is that we are increasing the average order value. Therefore we add some rejuvenation department in the warehouse, where they then, for example, they can take away odors by putting it into an ozone chamber. We have seamstresses that can mend a little bit of the products that have some holes in it, and then also washing if it's really, really dirty. Otherwise, we ask our customers to come back with clean clothes that we can then immediately put up on the rack and sell. So it's turning out to be really good business for us, and it's really, really good for the planet, because actually then we don't have to produce 4 times as much volumes. It can go into our circular business model.
Yeah, in fact, this is really good. There are a lot of these citizens who want to participate, want to contribute towards sustainability, want to actually do good thing where we produce less carbon, our carbon footprint is reduced. But then they don't know how to do it. They don't see easy, actionable item to work on. And then your companies like yours clearly gives them a framework for working with you and actually achieve that good idea of sustainability, which is easily achievable. Like, all you need to do is make sure you care for the product you bought. It's going to last you long, so use it as much you can, but at the same time, just take care of it. And then when you bring the store, make sure you clean it up and you prepare it such that if it needs to know, like, how would you like to be treated? It's like, same way you treat others kind of thing. So if you're going to give your clothing to someone, make sure it is in a way that if someone gave it to you, you would like it. and you'll keep it, right? So that's what it is. And in that case, it becomes like a kind of exchange economy, or kind of like a back in the day, like when you used to do barter system. So it's kind of going in that direction, and I love it. So thank you very much for proposing, taking up this idea and moving forward with it. In fact, I would like more and more retail to go in this direction, because this is the real way of doing sustainability. So as we conclude, tell us, like, what advice or you would like to give to our industry experts in the retail business on this sustainability, and how the circular economy best practices could be brought into their organizations, so that we all can contribute together towards building this good planet.
Well, just get started. It's easier said than done, because it is, I agree, it's very, very complex, but it starts also with the product. You have to, in the starting phase, make products that are possible to sell secondhand, or to sort of, you can't, even if you have other criteria than what we do, then that it should be able to be hand me down for 3 children. Start making quality. It's not only clothing, but that is much more sustainable. That you can that it can be put into a circular wheel afterwards, where it's used several times, because we need to be able to use each resource much more effectively in the world than we're doing today. So I guess it starts again with, and that's been retail at least all my life, product. It's among the most things we are selling. Children's wear, we're not selling a dream, so we can only make sure that the products that we are producing are made in a way that they are able to be reused, and that is the biggest sustainability measure you can do, is actually to make durable things. And then you have to make sure that the fibers that you're using are sustainable, that you might be using GOT certified cotton or RWS, so these different certifications that are really, really good helping you. And that's also a small company like ours, we wouldn't manage if we wouldn't use these different certifications of the textiles, like GOTS or RWS, which are helping us a lot in also the quality control, and making sure that out into the sort of the cotton field is done in a good and socially defendable way. We use then different certifying bodies to help us there. So it starts with the product, and then the rest. We had 90% of our carbon footprint is in the production phase. So the rest obviously is important, but start with the product. That's probably my best advice.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much for this. Is really good advice. Make good product that lasts long and people love it, so they will take care of it. Right. Good. Thank you very much, Johan. It was really good talking to you. I had so much fun.
Thanks, Anil. It was a pleasure talking to you as well, and I had a lot of fun as well. So thanks. Take care, and onwards and upwards we go.
Awesome. Thanks. That's it for this episode of the Customer-Centric Retailing Podcast. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and Google Podcast. Please rate and review, and recommend to a friend or a fellow retail fanatic. This podcast is presented by Hotworks Commerce.